What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. I'm Noah Strackbine. Shout out to our members for making this another great episode. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. As always, especially in a week where Aaron Rodgers is at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. If you want to become a member and call in to the AST call-in show, you can do so by clicking the link in the description below. We got a good one. Aaron Rodgers is here. I'm sure plenty of questions. It's been a long, treacherous journey, but we got here. And from here on out, there seems to be a different feel, a bit of an excitement around the Pittsburgh Steelers, their quarterback situation, and everything that is going to follow. And with that said, I won't hold you guys up any longer. Let's get into it.
Hey, Noah. This is Marlon. I was on the show earlier today and hadn't had a chance to watch and interact for a little bit, been a little busy, but wanted to talk since Aaron Rodgers had signed, and I do have a question. Why is it that the narrative is either the Steelers are going to stink or they're going to be amazing instead of the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to help develop and show the Steelers a lot about their young players? Here we are getting a chance to see if Calvin Austin can really be a wide receiver too. We'll get a good look at Roman Wilson. We'll see if Pat Freiermuth is worthy of his contract. And we'll see what the offensive line is with quick game and long game instead of just long game. So just curious, why is it that that is the only thing that people are talking about? And I'm probably going to call in, so be ready again. Bye.
Shout out to Marlon, man. I agree with you. I look at Aaron Rodgers and what he brings to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If nothing more, it is a veteran presence that I think is a better veteran presence than what they've had since Ben. A guy who's been to a Super Bowl, who's known around the league as a guy who does excel offenses, brings them to a higher peak. And if he doesn't have the mobility or the MVP caliber arm or any of that anymore, at least he's been there and done it enough times to say he knows exactly how to. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the best seers of the field the NFL has ever had. And he's one of the guys who his brain works so differently than almost anybody else's. And that is something the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially their young guys, can latch onto. I agree with you 100%. I look at this as an opportunity for guys like Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, who Aaron Rodgers was comparing to Mercedes Lewis the other day, and gives everybody an opportunity to grow and to see what they can do with veteran leadership. It's the most important position on the football field. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had so much turnover there that, I mean, Pat said it yesterday, he's always had a different locker mate. That's not what you're looking for your young guys. You want them to have stability. You want them to have a veteran presence, a strong mind to be able to lean into. They've had that in spurts, but none to the caliber that Aaron Rodgers is going to bring. And because of that, I mean, this is at bare minimum a great move for the Steelers because of what Aaron Rodgers brings mentally and mentorship wise. Why is it viewed the opposite? I mean, it's simple. He didn't play the greatest all of last season. And after 3 months of waiting around, people get tired. They get upset. They get a little angry about the situation. They take it personally at that point. And that's what happened. And there's one thing Yinzers and really all of Steelers Nation is, and that is blue collar, put all your faith into something being the Pittsburgh Steelers and believe in it. You know, I am part of it. That is the mentality of Steelers Nation. And it kind of felt for a while that Aaron Rodgers didn't want to become part of it. He wanted it to be Steelers and I. And that rubbed people the wrong way. He's here. Now he's making it very known. He's part of it. We're all in. It's not him and we. It's all of it. And I think that's going to work in his favor. I have high hopes for Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. That's why people have a negative light on it. Added to a 5-12 season with the Jets, which I don't totally blame him for. It's just a bad mix, but I agree. The mentorship, the leadership, the veteran presence, it's going to be big for a lot of these guys.
Hey, Noah. It's Marlon again. Told you you'd probably hear from me again. But I do have another quick question. Not just one player, sorry. Who is the one player you are most excited about to get a good look with Aaron Rodgers? Is it Caleb Johnson or Jaylen Warren, with the ability of the passing game to not load the box? Is it Pat Freiermuth, who will finally be able to have a quarterback who can take advantage of the tight end? Look at what Rodgers did with guys like Jermichael Finley and some of those guys, where he was able to extend their careers for forever and utilize them in the red zone like we could with Darnell Washington. Or is it Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson or maybe DK Metcalf? Let me know. Maybe even Broderick Jones. Who knows? Quick game could help Broderick out quite a bit on the left side. But
it could.
Let me know what you think. Bye.
Shout out to Marlon. All right. I have two of them, and you mentioned both of them. Broderick would have been awesome, but no, that's not my answer. My first answer is Pat Freiermuth. I mean, Pat's a guy, he said it himself on the Cam Hayward podcast the other day. Aaron Rodgers is the first quarterback he's played with since Ben that's going to trust you to be somewhere, who's going to understand, hey, this guy does this in this way. I got it. I know where to put the football, and I know how to give him an opportunity to make plays. Aaron Rodgers has always worked well with tight ends. He's always utilized his tight ends. He's always had great relationships with his tight ends, and I think Pat and him are going to get along great, and what that's going to mean on the field is huge. I have such high expectations for Pat Freiermuth with Aaron Rodgers, because I look at Pat as a guy who, like, Pat has Travis Kelce-like potential. I'm not saying Pat's going to be Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is the greatest receiving tight end of all time. But I look at Pat Freiermuth as a guy who has the abilities that Travis Kelce has. I don't know if he'll ever be the GOAT, but I will look at him as somebody who could be great. And he's never had the opportunity to do that. And I'm looking for it now with Aaron Rodgers. I am. I think this is the first real opportunity since Ben and Pat was a rookie that Pat's had to have a quarterback who trusts him, who knows how to work with tight ends, and who works with them successfully. I think that's huge. My second guy is Calvin Austin. I mean, Pat said this the other day on the Cam Hayward podcast as well, and it stuck with me so hard. Calvin Austin is so good that sometimes we overlook how early he gets open. And that's because of how fast he is. And if he could get open that fast, you want to know who is great at two things, and that is reading the field and getting the ball out quickly. Aaron Rodgers. He's got one of the fastest releases the NFL has ever seen, on top of some of the best football smarts, some of the best vision, some of the best anticipation that we have ever seen in NFL history. If it works even a little bit, I think Calvin Austin takes a massive step forward with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I mean, I'm so excited. I think Calvin Austin's a stud, and I think he's got so much room for growth. And I'm excited to see what Aaron Rodgers brings to that. Those would be my two, though. I think Pat Freiermuth becomes Aaron Rodgers' best friend, and I think Calvin Austin gets something unlocked within him if Aaron Rodgers plays well, which we can't guarantee, but I'm going to say, like, of all the options, I feel the most confident in a guy who's a 4-time MVP, who chose to come back at 41 years old, and who at the end of last season looked pretty good. So I have high hopes for those two. And if anybody's going to benefit, it's going to be those two.
Hey, Noah, Tony here. I had a question. Since we got the 41-year-old quarterback now, we still need a number 2 wide receiver. A couple of guys at work are saying we should pick up like Alan Lazard, somebody that Rodgers knows and is familiar with and has that connection with. And I'm under the opinion that we don't need to get like an Alan or a Lazard. I think we need more like a Chris Olave that's going to be there for years, because we only have Rodgers for 1 year. And if we're going to get a quarterback next year, we should probably get a number 2 wide receiver that's going to be there for him, you know, and build something with him and not just have a wide receiver for this year.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? And 2, you were right last week when you said I wasn't saying we should tank for the year. I was saying we shouldn't get Rodgers. We should just roll with Mason and let the cards fall where they fall. If it was 10-7 or winning season, it didn't really matter. that's all I was going to say. Talk to you later. Bye.
Shout out, Tony. Shout out, Tony. Appreciate you. And I knew what you meant last week. The Steelers, they're not a team that should tank. Nobody wants them to tank, but at the same time, I understand, like, some people just look at it like, hey, man, sometimes you just got to see what you could do. And if it's good enough, great, but the expectations aren't super high to begin with, which stinks to be at. And I think, honestly, like, the spark that Aaron Rodgers brought yesterday showed me a little bit that at least for me, at least being there in person, like, it gave me a spark, a vibe, a feeling that I haven't gotten from the Pittsburgh Steelers all offseason. And it's only been a couple of weeks, but in those couple of weeks, it was dull, boring. I mean, a little bit depressing, to be honest with you. Just feeling like there was a missing piece. Everybody understood there was a missing piece. Nobody knew what was going on. The attention was annoying. I mean, all of it, the whole nine. That doesn't seem to be there today. And that's exciting. At the end of the day, that is exciting. When it comes to the wide receiver 2, I do think you still need a wide receiver 2. Now, I think Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson have potential. And I think I see that more than the Pittsburgh Steelers actually do, to the point where I don't know if I'd be going after a wide receiver today. I think I'd be waiting. Allen Lazard makes sense. I think it's a feasible answer to what the Steelers are looking for and need. I mean, Allen Lazard's not a bad wide receiver by no means. I think he was in a bad offense last year and still put up pretty decent numbers in 12 games. If he could do that in Pittsburgh, that's a decent number 2 that you hope Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson surpass. That's what they'd look at that as, is, okay, Allen's here to be a security blanket, just like Gabe Davis is here to be a security blanket. But if it all works out, Allen Lazard, Gabe Davis is still a good wide receiver, and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson become great wide receivers and surpass him. And that's what they'll hope for. Do I think it works? Yeah, I honestly, I think it does. I look at that as, okay, you have enough security to make something happen, because you also have Robert Woods, who I don't have high hopes for. But if Robert Woods is your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, that's a great wide receiver core compared to what you've had the last couple of years. Chris Olave is the move. Obviously, I don't think you could afford a scary Terry McLaurin. I don't think you could afford an A.J. Brown. I don't think you can afford. Somebody tossed Deebo Samuel out there. That wouldn't happen. But Brandon Ayuk, you're just not looking for those guys. Chris Olave is still cheap for a year. Then you could add to that next year. And next year is where you have a bunch of cap space to work with. I think that's the way to go about it right now. And I personally think Chris Olave is going to become available. That's why I don't look at the Steelers as a team that needs to be real urgent on this matter. Just stay calm, be patient, stay the course. And once training camp starts, you monitor the situation, and week by week, you decide, you put a line in the sand, and you say, on this date, August 6th, whatever, we have to have a wide receiver 2 no matter what. We have to figure it out, because there will be options to go do that then, and I think there'll be more options. And I think teams like the Saints will start to realize, all right, maybe we do make moves to add draft capital, because we don't think this season's going to go as planned. We don't think that it's going to go as well as we thought it was going to before Derek Carr suddenly retired. And Chris Olave is the easiest one there. You give the Saints a second-round pick. You make them worse in the process, which is what they're looking for, to get up and get their quarterback next year. And you add draft capital so that they can move up and get their quarterback next year. Then you're in an arms race with the New Orleans Saints. But I'm okay with that, if we're going to be honest. I think the Saints have a better chance of getting the number 1 pick than the Steelers do. And the Steelers are going to be somewhere from 5 to 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they're okay there. I'm okay with them being there. I think it works out. I think you'd be patient, but I do think the Steelers are going to add a wide receiver 2 at some point between now and the start of the season.
So, what up, man? It's your boy.
What's good?
Been out here. She's trying to keep these streets safe. Doing the best.
Appreciate you.
Anyways, it's been a while since I called in. Figured I'd call in and say, what's up? Grandpa says hi, by the way.
Yes, sir.
And, oh, well, fuck. Here we go. As much as I can't stand Mr. Rodgers, and I really can't stand Mr. Rodgers, kind of thought of going to whatever darkness retreat he was at and probably handcuffing his ass so he stayed the hell out of Pittsburgh. But, and I digress. Damn it, Aaron Rodgers is here. All right. So what the hell is going to happen next?
Great question.
I hope that our tight ends have the greatest year that they've probably ever had. God knows Kenny wasn't the one. Hoping Justin Fields would be one. I was ready to throw Russell Wilson out of Pittsburgh as soon as he got hurt in training camp. But the offense looks better. The defense is starting to show some scary sights in a good way, which I'm very happy about. And, yeah, man, what the fuck, man? So, give it up, bro. Miss you. Shout out to Smoothie Booty. And, all Steelers Nation, man. See what the fuck happens. Later, bro.
Shout out to Smoothie Booty, man. I hope Smoothie Booty's doing well. I think everybody does. For sure. And if you're listening to this, proud of you. Keep kicking ass out there. I agree with you. And I'll give you some hope as we sit here today. Some things. Kenny wasn't it. Okay. I knew Kenny wasn't it. I will say that going into Kenny's second year, I was excited, maybe a little bit too excited, to be honest with you. But it clearly from the jump was not the move. Aaron Rodgers does things better than any quarterback the Steelers have had since Ben. Getting rid of the ball is one of them. He's got one of the best releases in the NFL still to this day. He's got better arm strength than anybody else. I don't care about a moon ball. I'm talking arm strength, get it into a pocket, know where to put the ball placement, that kind of stuff. He understands the field better than anybody the Pittsburgh Steelers have had since Ben Roethlisberger, and that's going to be huge. It's the first time you feel like this is a successful quarterback that the Steelers have here, and we don't have to talk ourselves in to being a successful quarterback. Maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't work out. Maybe he doesn't have the physicals that you need anymore to be a good NFL quarterback. Maybe the offensive line doesn't turn out to be good, and because of that, Aaron Rodgers doesn't turn out to be good. But I'm going to be honest. If the offensive line looks good, Aaron Rodgers is just watching him. The first quarterback that you saw and went, if the things around him aren't bad, Aaron might be pretty good. Like this could work out. That's what you see in Aaron Rodgers. It's out at the end of last season. Do I think he's the best quarterback in the league? Not even close. Do I think he wins you a Super Bowl? Wouldn't put money on it. But I think he gives you some sort of opportunity to be better than you were a year ago. And then that's significant. I knew they didn't. I thought they were going to have something in Justin. I was optimistic for Justin Fields for sure. Russ, I was 100% on board with you with that one. It was ready to go. And I think Aaron Rodgers, man, I just think we're here. And I think it's a good last shot in the dark. See what happens. Hopefully it works out. Like that's what you're getting out of this is you're just looking at it going, man, oh man, oh man. If it does, the Steelers just lucked out one last time before you restart the quarterback clock, which means you got to win because rookies don't win Super Bowls. They don't. But they do open the door to keep that Super Bowl window alive the year after that. And that's your best time to win a Super Bowl. If the Steelers could somehow, in a blue moon, crazy off-the-wall chance, pull this thing off this season, which I'm not going to say they are. I wouldn't put money on it. I wouldn't even predict them to win the AFC North. But if they did, they just got themselves a one last hurrah just before they started their good big hurrah. Their let's go. We got a rookie quarterback. This is a guy. They'd still find their way into the top 10 and they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't be comfortable missing. They'd go get a quarterback in the NFL draft in 2026, even if they won the Super Bowl. If it works out, the best it could work out, the Steelers just lucked out in a way that nobody thought. And that's not a possibility with Mason Rudolph or Will Howard. And because of that, let's just see what happens. I'm on the boat with you. It's weird. It's not fun, but let's just see what happens. And if the circus of media continues around this guy, if the 75 pit players watching continue around this guy, I'm going to be honest. It's not going to be fun for me either because yesterday was so chaotic. It was a bit scary. Hopefully that all calms. We don't have the big spotlight on the Pittsburgh Steelers all season because the Steelers play better when it's not there. And we'll see what happens.
Hey there, Noah. Stephen Cornfield here. Hopefully I got in time for the show. So I had two for you today.
Yes, sir.
So how good do you think Will Howard could end up being next year, competing for the the starting position, while he's progressing this year with Ben Roethlisberger in one year and Aaron Rodgers in the other. I kind of feel like that can make some success there. And I want to know your take on a storyline. If for some reason the Steelers ended up playing the Packers again in the Super Bowl, what's the storyline there that you think will be out and about? And what do you think the conclusion would be? Have a good morning.
Ooh, good question. We'll start with Will Howard. I think Will Howard's potential is a bit unknown right now. I'm excited to see what it is, because if Will Howard came into Pittsburgh and Mason Rudolph was in one ear and Ben Roethlisberger was in the other ear, and he was a 6th-round rookie, I'd say in a year from now, I expect him to look slightly better than a 6th-round rookie. Awesome, but Ben's not in the building. It's just all verbal advice, and that's good, but it's not the best help you can get because he's not there. But now you're getting verbal advice on top of physical, in the building, in your face advice, sitting next to you in the meetings advice, hands-on mentorship from Aaron Rodgers on the other side. I think that's huge. And that raises the bar. Now, do I think I won't, I'll be very honest. I don't think in a year from now, Will Howard sits here and is so good that he's a starting quarterback. I just don't. I'm just trying to be realistic about the situation. And realistically, Will Howard is a 6th-round pick, and he's got to be treated like a 6th-round pick. But he's a 6th-round pick that has a lot going for him. And that's awesome. And it gives him a shot, because if you were a normal 6th-round pick, you would have ended up like Skylar Thompson. That's what you would have done, who is working on his next NFL team, trying to make a roster because he was thrown into the fire and he had nobody to lead him the entire time. Will has some crazy mentorship around him, and that's significant. That's very significant, but he's got to be able to put it together. And I have no idea if he's going to, because he was drafted in the 6th round because nobody thought where he could put together any higher or high enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now that he has this, can he? We'll find out. We will find out. But I think it's significant mentorship, and it gives him a much better shot at pulling this thing off. Again, I have no idea if he's actually gonna. When it comes to the storyline of the Super Bowl, it'd be Rodgers versus the Packers with ease. It'd be Steelers versus Packers revenge game, but somehow Aaron's on the other side of it. It would be all of that. It would be nuts. It would be so nuts how big of a storyline, that would be. But it would be, in my eyes, it would have to lean towards the Steelers, right? It would have to. If the Steelers somehow get to the Super Bowl, they've done things that are crazy. They have beaten at least a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson. They've probably gone through the AFC North and came out the other side victorious almost all the time. Chances are they beat the Packers again in the regular season. I just think it's huge. And the Steelers, if they make it to the Super Bowl and they're healthy, that just means that what it looks like on paper became true. And what it looks like on paper is the Steelers defense is stacked and their offense looks pretty damn good. And they need a wide receiver, but there aren't many holes. They have depth across the board. They have an offensive line that they've invested heavily in. They have a defense that they've invested super heavily in. And on top of that, they now officially have depth. They have veterans at corner and at safety that they're leaning on. They have a new star wide receiver. They have a quarterback who's done this before. And I'm not talking Russell Wilson did it before with the Legion. No, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he looked like a stud in the middle of it. He's a 4-time MVP. Aaron's a difference maker if it all works out. If it all works out. We'll see if it does. But that would be the biggest storyline in my prediction if it was to happen, unless the Packers look unbelievable this season. I would guess Aaron's getting one last revenge game on the Pittsburgh or on the Green Bay Packers. That would be my prediction in that storyline of, I don't even know what Super Bowl would come next, but whatever this Super Bowl is, shout out. All right. With that said, I'm heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. As always, please make sure to go to Apple Podcasts, download us all and hit that 5-star review. We're moving on up. I can't thank you guys enough. If you want to become a member and call into next week's call-in show, do so by clicking the link in the description below. You could also shoot me emails with questions, and I love getting back to you guys and trying to answer as many as I possibly can. With that said, I'll be back later on the flagship show. Enjoy a beautiful day in the Berg.